Hey folks, Ricky aka the War Champion is back in the building, and today I want to do a little discussion on the advanced towers in Kingdom Rush. So I'm going to go in details on their stats, their pros and their cons, and show some of their good moments when they're very, very useful. So I just wanted to have a little discussion today, and then this is part of one of my special vids before I end up starting looking to branch over to the games. So let's just talk, folks. Let's have a little chit chat. All right. Yeah. So starting off, so we're going to start off with the Big Bertha. All right, so that's one of the artillery advanced towers. The cost to set it up is $360. That's after the field logistic upgrade. Attack power is 55 to 110. Concentrated fire upgrade, and it deals splash damage. That's a style of attack. Attack rate is very slow, 3.5 seconds. They attack every 3.5 seconds. Attack radius is long, so it has a large radius of 360 scope. I'm not sure what units is measured in, but that's what the website says, 360 scope. The usage frequency, although it is a tower that has been gaining a lot of my respect, and I really like it a lot. It's a tower, I would have to be honest, I say I don't use it often. So it's like out of all the 8 towers, it's like 8th on my list for being used very frequently. But it is very powerful, and it is very, very useful, and it has actually come in handy so many times, and I have clips to prove it. So let's talk about some of its pros and cons. So these are the pros. So it's very effective against hordes of enemies, obviously in artillery. Possesses that tri-combination attack that I like, the dragon launcher, the rest in pieces attack, and then the attack itself. Deals max splash damage every hit and ignores half of an enemy's armor. That's with all artillery, it ignores half of the enemy's armor, but it deals max splash damage too. With smart targeting upgrade, it's able to do that max splash damage only with the smart targeting upgrade, and then it applies to also the cluster bomb upgrade too. Its special abilities, when purchased, enemies outside of its range are vulnerable, and that's definitely true with the dragon launcher. And even also the rest is the Reese's Pieces attack it has, where it's able to attack enemies in a straight line that is way out of range of its tower. It's also able to do that. It can target flying enemies directly and hurt them indirectly. And what I mean by that is that, with this regular attack, let's say if a gargoyle is hovering over an enemy on the ground, it's able to attack the ground level enemy, and at the same time the area damage is able to hurt the flying enemy. Attack radius is larger than the Tesla, so it's like 9% larger. That's a pretty big deal. It's able to cover more ground and attack an enemy from further away than a Tesla could. Its cons is that it attacks super slow. It's the slowest attack rate of all towers at 3.5 seconds. It's the least cost efficient to build multiple Big Berthas compared to any other tower. Its single Big Bertha is not very, although it can attack flying enemies directly with the dragon launcher and indirectly, it's not reliable really to attack flying units and even scattered enemies, like enemies all over the place. It's not very, very reliable. It's even with that rocket launcher upgrade, and it deals less damage to enemies per hit compared to the Tesla. Tesla's rated at 66 to 121, and the Big Bertha has 55 to 110. So those are its pros and cons. There might be some other things that you can think of, but those are the ones I put together for this little comparison. Let's see some clips now, and it's in action. Here's some of its great moments. So this was possible. The Big Bertha only on this one with the forest trolls, and I used hacksaw. This was very hard to do with Teslas only. I barely managed to survive with 5 lives on this one. But with Big Berthas, it's absolutely possible, and it makes it when you got multiple of these things set up, they are just incredibly powerful. This just shows you clips of it showing the multi combination attack it has, which makes even taking out forest trolls, hordes of them. This is where he brought 16 of them. It makes it very easy to kill them off with hordes of these things, with all of these Big Berthas out here. Muy bien. Yep, those forest trolls have no chance. Not with all these Big Berthas attacking. No enemy has a chance with all these upgrades, folks. It's just beautiful, and that's why this tower has gained my respect for getting, for being used for getting rid of a horde of enemies. But look at all those forest trolls we got rid of. Look at that. Hey, that's right, folks. And then this one, this is the heroic stage. I didn't show this video, but this is an example of a clutch moment here. Watch what's about to happen with that dragon launcher. All these rock streams are getting ready to go, folks. This looks bad. Hacksaw's about to die. He's dead, but look at that. Hey, that right there, that dragon launch saved the day there. That was the heroic stage for the fungal forest. That was a prime example of why that tower is good. It's able to save you in bad spots with that dragon launcher capability. So those are its clutch moments. I have plenty of more clips, but those were its biggest ones. That's what I wanted to show. All right, next is the Arcane Wizard. That's on the list. 270 costs for that's after the Hermetic Study upgrade, and typically it costs 300, but after you use that upgrade, that costs 270. Attack damage 88 to 161. That's with the Empower Magic upgrade. Without that upgrade, it only has 76 to 140. Attack rate is very slow at 2 seconds. Attack radius 400 is the scope. Again, I don't know the units on that, but that's the scope. The usage frequency, not often. 7th out of 8th of all the advanced towers I use. I don't use it that often, but I do. There have been times when I do use it, and I find it's very useful against very powerful enemies that I need to either kill off or especially teleport back the same path that they travel. All right, so here is its pros and cons. Deals the highest damage per hit of all towers. True. Possesses a guaranteed insta-kill capability. That death ray magic damage ignores armor and can potentially reduce it. Definitely true. That's the good thing about, well, that's in general of all mage towers, but especially the Arcane. Possesses the ability to teleport multiple enemies back along a path traveled. Very reliable against slow-moving enemies like a forest troll. It's very, very reliable. And it possesses a good attack range. And, if you put it in a good spot, it's able to reach out pretty far enough to hit enemies from far off in the distance. That's why I like this tower. But though the only drawback with it, and the reason why I don't really use it often, is cons. Though it attacks slower than all mage towers. Yeah, in 2 seconds it's really slow attacking. First level upgrades are really expensive at 300 bounty for teleportation, and then the death rate costs 350. That's quite a bit of bounty to spend. There's certain levels that don't return a lot of bounty early on. It's kind of bad to invest in that death rate early on, depending on what stage you have, if you want to be thrifty with your bounty. Some instances, the death rate insta kill is less desirable to use it compared to the sorcerer's polymorph, like Rotten Forest Iron Stage. That's when they brought all the hordes of husks, and then the demon hounds, and then the swamp things. They all converge at that choke point, and then you don't want to use that insta kill to kill off one of the husk or the demon hounds. You want to use it on the swamp thing, obviously, as that's the most troublesome enemy, but they can insta kill the wrong, least desirable enemy. And then the teleportation can also backfire because it can potentially clump hordes of enemies. For instance, like packs of winter wolves or wargs or skeleton warriors or tainted treants, and it can make it very bad because you won't be able to kill off all. It just clumps a lot of enemies up, and it may make it a lot harder to kill them, to target certain troublesome enemies if they're all clumped up. So that it can backfire when you use that teleport capability. So let's see some clips, folks. So here is its great moments. This is Night Fang Swell when I attempted the mage only. But here you see an example of that teleportation, the slow moving black hag here. Prime example here, see, look at that. We dodged a lot of bullets on this one. Yeah, see, that teleportation comes in handy. Also, that mage, that attack, the ability of the magic towers to slow down the enemies every hit. See, insta kill, muy bien. And then you got to get rid of that black hag. There you go, teleport it back in time. That tower is clutch. It's really clutch. That teleportation works very effectively against slow-moving enemies. And the black hag here is a prime example. Good, get rid of that. Yeah. And then this is Lord Blackburn. This is just the epic moment. This is just to show you the power of that tower. Insta kill there. The warg that Lycan had no chance. And then this was just a showcase when I did with Magnus, and I used arcanes everywhere. But this just shows you the raw attack power. And you see how powerful it is. Just even Lord Blackburn is highly vulnerable. It reduced his armor completely, and then the attack power is just incredibly powerful. It's a pity I don't use it that often, but it's just for me, my style of play is to use fast attacking towers, and it's just not my typical tower to use. All right, next on the list is the Musketeer, the Garrison. Cost 230, attack damage 35 to 65. Attack rate is slow, 1 point every 1.5 seconds. Its attack radius is extreme, and it possesses the biggest attack radius of all towers at 470. Frequency, not often. I do use this tower more than the Big Bertha and the Arcane, in my opinion, but I don't use it that often because, again, I think it just boils down to my style of play. I tend to, use towers like this. I like to use that Sorcerer, Tesla, and the Ranger more than I do this tower. Though this does have incredibly a big attack power, I just don't use it that often. Especially with that shrapnel ability it has. I like to exploit that, but. Those are its stats, and then here are the pros and cons. Its attack radius is the largest diameter-wise of all towers. I just mentioned that. Attacks are much more accurate compared to all other archer towers. Definitely true. It's far more precise. It deals high damage per hit, 35 to 65. Possesses a high potential insta-kill capability, which is very reliable against powerful enemies. This, surprisingly, it also works on spectral knights that are immune to physical damage. That's absolutely true. I was playing I think it was Castle Blackburn. I think Coziness happened to spot that I insta killed one of the spectral knights. I didn't realize that, but it got spotted, and then he mentioned that. So yeah, that tower can insta kill even spectral knights, which is surprising, but it works. Potential insta kill ability can attack enemies outside of the range of its tower. That's a big reason why I would pick. I like going with this tower at times, but I don't play with it often. But that's another good reason. If no insta kill, it deals high damage to enemies. Shrapnel upgrade deals max damage every hit only on Steam, and when maxed out it can deal up to 720 explosive damage. Not sure about the other what is it, versions of Kingdom Rush, like I guess the Android. So I don't know if they deal max damage on that one, but for sure on Steam, as that's what most people have said, and that's evidently been true at 720. And I do know the upgrade says 150 to 600 potentially, but that apparently is incorrect. It's supposed to be 720. Its cons is that it attacks slow compared to the Ranger hideout, and it also attacks slowly compared to every other Archer tower, with the exception, I think, of the level 1 Archer tower. It less damage is dealt to an enemy over time compared to the Ranger hideout, which is another reason why I don't tend to go with it. True that it does 35 to 65 and the Ranger does 13 to 19. It's just the Ranger has a very fast attack rate of every 0.4 seconds. It's dealing 13 to 19. So when you add that up, over time, it ends up being the Ranger does more damage than the Garrison. Without the shrapnel, it's not very useful against hordes of enemies, especially like fast-moving enemies like Winter Wolves and Wargs and all that. And it's not thrifty bounty-wise in my opinion, when attempting to max out its upgrades for both special abilities. I mean, think about it. The sniper shot upgrade costs 750 bounty, and the shrapnel costs 900. That sniper shot, it's very reliable, but it only gives you a max. When it maxes out, it gives you a 60% chance of potentially insta-killing an enemy. And then the shrapnel, when you want to max that out, it's 900. That's a lot of bounty. So some levels it can be very disadvantageous to have that shrapnel maxed out, depending on how things turn out. So let's see some clips though of its clutch moments. So this is this was when I did the Bolin Far Slayer showcase with the you see with all these garrisons, it's very cost efficient to set up a garrison. It costs the least to set up multiple archer towers in general. But you see that all those headshots and all those shrapnels, it gets rid of enemies pronto. You gotta love it when that combination of that insta kill capability and that shrapnel, it just makes gameplays. Look at how incredible useful that is. It's a pity why I don't use this tower that often, but it's true. I just don't play with it that often the way I should. And then here, just as a clutch moment, look at the massive damage it does here with that shrapnel, folks. Hey, that's right. That was beautiful. And that shrapnel in so many cases, I even used it on the Iron Challenge for, Dark Tower when I did only 3 towers for that one. It's very, very reliable when it does that max damage, and even it's reliable even on Pandemonium and Pit of Fire with that Cerberus too. So that's a good reason to exploit it. But it's a pity I don't use it often. Moving right along, I ranked the Paladins as far as frequency use. Cost 230 attack. The Paladins only do 12 to 18. Their attack rate is pretty slow at every 1.47 seconds. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's slow, but that's what it says on the website. 1.47 seconds. Hit points 240. That's only with endurance training upgrade. I believe their original attack power is like 200 and then 220. I could be wrong, but I think there's a couple of upgrades that you make to eventually potentially have it maxed out at 240 hit points. Their respawn rate is 11 seconds. That's with improved deployment upgrade, and I think without that it's like 14 seconds. Could be wrong, but I think that's the case. Armor is medium, it's 60%, but with the better upgrade, that's with the better armor upgrade. Without the better armor upgrade, then I believe they only have 50%. And then the frequency use is fifth out of the towers. It's at 5 out of 8 on the advanced towers that I use as far as frequency. Here are the pros and cons to using the Paladins. So the pros, obviously the Paladin, it's the most durable unit of all the barracks, as they can potentially possess high armor when you make that upgrade to it. Very reliable when it comes to stalling powerful enemies and bosses such as the Yetis, Magma Elementals, Forest Trolls, Swamp Things, Trowbreakers, Oguk High, Guldak, etc. Very useful and desirable to play with on highly barrack restricted levels. With that combination of the Valor of Light and high armor upgrade, levels like Rotten Forest, Fungal Forest, Pit of Fire, Pandemonium, those levels where it's kind of is hard to play with barracks on, they're very useful. You can easily play with them on barrack restricted levels, and they potentially can possess a powerful area attack damage that does it does true damage only on the flash, as I've learned and as other people have told me, and then it does physical area damage on Steam. But that Feel My Wrath attack they can do is pretty effective, especially against hordes of weak enemies, and even some powerful enemies too. It's pretty effective at dwindling their hit points down. I think the maxed out they can do like 75 to 135. The cons, there are quite a few of them. The respawn rate is the slowest of all barracks at 11 seconds. So I think all the other barracks have like an 8-second deployment rate when they respawn. So that's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big deal of a slow respawn rate. And because their respawn rate is so long, they may not be desirable to play with on levels, such as like let's say when you're trying to fight against Sargas, you want to tank Sargas, right? That might be your strategy, but it's not the wisest thing to use Paladins to tanker, because when they die, the Paladins take so much longer compared to a Barbarian to respawn. Also, is their area attack rate, that Feel My Wrath attack, there's only a 10% chance that a Paladin will perform it. So this is with respect to them individually. It's a 10% chance that they'll perform that attack. So that's the drawback with using having that upgrade. So it can backfire on you if you purchase that. Attack power pales in comparison to the maximum potential of the Barbarians can possess. Barbarians can have a attack power of 46 to 54. So folks, 12 to 18 versus that is just definitely it might not be. If you're a real a killing machine type of strategist, then you're going to want the Barbarians more than the Paladins. But there are times where the Paladins are more desirable compared to the Barbarians. They cannot attack flying enemies. Definitely true, and that's another reason why they might not be as the type of tower you would prefer to use instead of a Barbarian. So let's see some clips though of it. See some great moments. So this is an example of durability here. You see, they can absorb punishment. They just don't die. Look at that. Swamp Thing's just acting a fool, chugging away at them. They can take all that punishment easily. This just shows off their durability. Here's another example here on Fungal Forest. This is a highly barrack restricted level, but you see the rot shrooms giving off those poison spores when they die. The Paladins just don't die. That's why they're more desirable to use on a stage like this compared to Barbarians. So yeah, this was when I did the barracks only challenge on this stage as well. But the better option in this case was the Paladins in this one on this particular level. All right. Moving right along, next is the Barbarians. The cost is 230 to upgrade to have them on the battlefield. Attack damage 16 to 24. Attack rate, I guess it's not slow, 1.37 seconds. What am I trying to compare that to? Am I comparing that to low barrier? I don't know, but it's just every 1.37 seconds. With the endurance training upgrade, they have 300. I'm not sure without it. I think they have 270 without it. I gotta check that, maybe 275. But anyhow, 300 when you have that upgrade. The respawn rate is every 8 seconds, making it's a lot quicker than the paladins. They have low armor, but that appears. I think they possess low armor with the better armor upgrade. I could be wrong, but that's for sure. They do have low armor. I think the website said they had none, but that's not true because evidently it's true that they have low armor. And the usage frequency, I go with them. It was a tough call, but I felt like I go with the Barbarians a little bit more frequently than the Paladins, only because maybe my style of play, I prefer like a blazing attack power and basically in a unit that can also that's very dynamic in a good way where it can attack flying enemies and attack enemies from the outskirts. That's why I kind of like the Barbarians because of that special axe throwing capability they have. Let's see the pros and cons. Pros, they deal the highest damage of all barracks. Definitely true. Only barracks tower that can potentially attack flying enemies. True. With upgrades, barbarians can potentially become very dynamic and possess deadly versatile attacks, which they can just like the paladins, they can possess an area damage. They also can possess that range damage, and they can also potentially enhance their attacking capability by increasing the amount of axes they hold from 1 to 2, and they can potentially do 46 to 54. So that's a 30 hit point jump from 16 to 24 to 46 to 54, making them killing machines, folks. Respawn rate is faster than the paladins. That's a pretty good point there as far as it being a pro. Maxed out axe throwing capability is powerful, and the attack range is decent. As far as like scope wise, when you max out their axe throwing capability, I believe it's 300. But again, I don't know the units on that, but it's 300. The cons is that they possess low armor and they can die quickly against powerful enemies like the Yeti, the Elemental, the Trollbreaker, Swamp Thing, etc. And even on even against the rot shrooms, they'll die quickly with that poison spore. And because of their poor durability, it's highly volatile using them on some levels, like Rotten Forest, Fungal Forest. Obviously, in that previous clip where I showed with the Paladins, the Paladins were better. They're just ultimately, there are times when you may want to use the Barbarians if you can make it work, but the Paladins are just better suited for that type of environment, if you ask me. But yeah, those are the cons with the Barbarians. There might be some other ones, but I just, haven't really thought of them. Can't really think of them though, but those are the main ones that stuck out to me. That's just all opinionated. Let's see some great moments. So this was when I attempted the 3-tower challenge. I just did 3 towers without a hero. These paladins were clutch because you see the incredible attack power here. This is just to show off their attack power. 46 to 54, they can easily kill off a Yeti. But you saw there that Yeti killed the barbarians because they're not durable like the paladins. So here's another example. Levels like this, when I did the barracks only on the heroic stage for Nightfang Swell, that you see how useful they are with that ranged attack. They're very, very, very reliable on a stage like this, and that's another reason why I feel like I go with them a lot more frequently because of that axe throwing ability. Boom! And then how could I ever forget, folks? This is when I did the barracks only challenge for Castle Blackburn, and that's what you see everywhere is a barbarian. Everywhere is a barbarian because I rely on that. It's just necessary to kill off these hordes of enemies with that axe, with their capabilities. How could I ever forget that? Muy bien, it made that level possible. Paladins only, I just didn't see that working like that on that type of stage. But that was epic using them there. So that's another good reason why I go with them a little bit more frequently. Next is the Ranger Hideout Tower. So the cost to upgrade that is 230, just like the Garrison. I go with this a little bit more frequently. Attack damage 13 to 19, but look at its attack rate every 0.4 seconds. So if you equate that to 1 whole second, that's like 33 to 48, 49-ish. Attack radius is not as great as the Musketeer. It only has a 400 scope, but that's still good. That's still a very great scope. The usage frequency, very often. I go with them pretty often. At 30, it's ranked third on my go-to towers as far as the ones I go with frequently. So let's see the pros and cons. Pros is its very fast attack rate, deals roughly 33 to 48 per second. So that's a little bit less than the garrison in a second, but the garrison, you have to remember, attacks every 1.5 seconds. So that's the difference. If you factor in a 1.5 second for the ranger, I believe it might be around that same, no, slightly more, probably more than likely. I just got to do the math on that. Every enemy is vulnerable, folks. This tower, I swear, I feel like there are times I go with it more than the Tesla, but because of that special ability, the combination of the Wrath of Force and Poison, this tower makes gameplay so easy, folks. It just really does for me, and that's why I consider that a huge pro. But although it's not the number one go-to tower that I go with all the time, that's not the one I go with most frequently. So I wouldn't be honest saying if I went with this most frequently. Ranger's tower ensures every enemy except the husk, skeleton, and zombie is touched. If you have that poison, that's if you have the poison. If you have the poison upgrade. Wrath of Force ability is great for hurting and stalling enemies. Another good reason why I go with it, folks. I have so many videos I can show you of that, but you probably already seen them already. But this tower, it's that all that in a bag of chips. Possesses a very good attack radius, though it's not as big as the garrison. It's still great, but its drawbacks is that, like all other archer towers, with the exception of the musketeers, their aim tends to be inaccurate at times, and they miss their targets, especially like fast-moving enemies going around a bend. This tower, it definitely, just like all archers, they tend to be inaccurate. They'll shoot at the ground, and you looking like, what are they aiming at? The garrison snipes and hits. It's very accurate. I don't even think they ever miss too. Single ranger hideout, even with upgrades, is not really effective or meant for killing off high hit point enemies like a troll breaker. It's not the most, or hordes of tainted treants. If you were to do a rangers only on rotten forest, you probably wouldn't be able to come out on top on that one or come out victorious. It would be, if you could, props to you, but it would be extremely difficult compared to a garrison only. And it's not thrifty when trying to max out its poison upgrade because it costs like 750 bounty. That's the only cons I can think of. If you have any more cons, feel free to dive in that comment section and tell me about it, folks. But those are the cons for me. But this tower is golden, folks. It's golden. Let's see some clips. So yeah, I had to put this in here, folks. I had to put this in here. The garrisons, all garrisons would make this easy, but look at this. It just makes, just in general, if you play any level and with a myriad of towers, implementing this tower is just going to make gameplay so much easier. Look at this. All these forest trolls getting attacked by the poison and the Wrath of Force by the rangers. They're not going anywhere like that. It just parks them in the garage and stops their movement. That's like being a nuisance to the enemies. It's like being a nuisance to the enemies. That's why I like that tower. Look at this. This is the heroic challenge, folks. The Pandemonium. Look how many towers I only have. That's all it took for a level like this, Pandemonium Heroic Challenge. All it took was a hero and 4 ranger hideouts to come out on top. This is muy bien. That's another reason why I feel like this tower just makes gameplay so much easier. And even like legends, like I think Murasaki Kimadori, for most of you that don't know him, he's a guy that most people would say was an extremely good Kingdom Rush player. I notice in his gameplay he tends to go with a lot of rangers pretty often. But yeah, it just makes gameplay so much easier. That's why it's a very top tower that I tend to go with. Next, however, though that is a third on my list, number 2 was the Sorcerer. So the sorcerer tower is a little bit more frequently, in my opinion, for sure. With cost, it originally cost 300, but with its the hermetic study upgrade, it costs 270. Attack damage 49 to 90. That's with the empowered magic upgrade, but without the empowered magic upgrade, it only does 42 to 78. Its attack rate is slow at every 1.5 seconds. Radius is great, and it's a 400 scope. And I go with it on. I ranked it out of 8. It's second on my list, folks. It's second on my list. So these are its pros. It deals great damage per hit and ensures every enemy within its radius receives the cursing attack. So that to me is a very good thing, because every enemy is going to get true damage over an of 8 per over a 5-second period. So a grand total of 40 true damage done over 5 seconds. Attack, its magic damage ignores armor. That's with all mage towers. I should never put that there, but that is a pro. It's very useful to utilize it. Polymorph ability is very reliable in many situations, as it ignores enemies unaffected by it. Rotten Forest, where the Husk and Demon Hound and Swamp Things converge. Even on Fungal Forest 2, provides an Earth Elemental for purchase that's very tough and reliable for crowd control. That Elemental, it's very, everyone knows that Elemental is very, very useful at holding off, troublesome enemies like a Breaker or a Cerberus, or a Swamp Thing. It's good at tanking. That Elemental is very, very reliable. It's another good reason why I go with this tower. It's just so dynamic with it. And that's why it also has a very good attack range, equivalent of that of the Ranger and the Arcane. But its cons, however, is that the first level upgrades are really expensive, just like that of the Arcane. The polymorph costs 300. And the bounty for the elemental costs 350. So it's definitely expensive to get that going. So that's the only drawback. It depends on what level you're playing. If you're playing a level where you want to be thrifty with the bounty, or it takes a while to get bounty going, that can sort of backfire when you're looking for those kind of upgrades to play with. Polymorph ability can backfire, as it can potentially sheep an enemy at an uncompromising situation, like a Lycan near the exit. Let's say you're playing Night Fane Swell. You obviously don't want to sheep a Lycan that's near an exit, because that's going to be bad. That thing moves quickly, and it's going to be hard to clickbait on it and get it out of the building. On some levels, it can be highly volatile, summoning the Earth Elemental. So you might have a lot of bounty. You might have enough bounty for buying that tower, but then you want to invest in playing with an Earth Elemental, but you can't do that. You don't want to do it because it's going to be very volatile, summoning an Earth Elemental on stages where if it dies, you're going to get a Swamp Thing as a result of it. So you always have to be mindful of that. So those are its real cons to me. There might be some more. Feel free to dive in the comment section if you can think of some more, but those are the ones for sure. But this is definitely a tower I tend to go with very frequently. Let's see some clips. Look at this. Okay, so this is the heroic challenge for Ruins of Acheroth. So as you can see, all it takes is just four towers. Folks, when I did the heroic challenges for mages only, this tower it's golden, because it just you can even play without a hero so many times with this tower. Just look at that. You got the insta killing ability, you got the ability to play with an Earth Elemental to serve as a barrack. It makes gameplay very easy. That's why I tend to go with it so frequently. These Warg Riders, they don't have a chance. And then it's just a great combination, because it's a combination of the elementals doing physical damage plus the mage is doing magic damage, and then true damage at times. This tower made it possible to even do Pandemonium on. How could I ever forget? This was the Kapow challenge, where we had to fight against Malak on Pandemonium with all sorcerers. That was epic, and that is another good reason why I love playing with this tower. And then last but not least, folks, this is the tower that I go with the most often. Even though I have said and bragged about at times that the Ranger is the more, my favorite tower at times, I couldn't be dishonest and say that that Ranger is the one I go with more frequently, because that's not true. It's definitely the Tesla. Tesla with the upgrade is 337 with that field logistic upgrade. I think without the field logistic upgrade, it's 375. And I think for the same thing with the Big Bertha, instead of 360, it would be 400 to buy it. Attack damage 66 to 121, and it does concentrated. That's with the concentrated fire upgrade, and it deals chain lightning damage. I'm not sure without those abilities how much it does. I think it's like 50 to 100. Yeah, I think so. 50 to 100. Attack rate is considered as very slow. It attacks every 2.2 seconds. Its attack radius is average. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to put what the scope is. I don't know the scope. I don't know the scope. But yeah, sorry about that. I should have put that in there, but I don't know what the scope is, folks. But it's for sure 9% less than the Big Bertha. So the Big Bertha, I think, was 360. So it's for sure a lot less than that. So let's see the pros and cons on this. So it deals high damage of all artillery. That's true at 66 to 121 versus the Big Bertha at 55 to 110. Damages all enemies within a 360-degree radius. Folks, that is so muy bien. You can put it in levels like glacial heights. Every enemy around is going to get touched. That's a prime example, especially near the exit. That's a good strategy point to put it at. It deals max chain lightning damage to a maximum of 5 enemies with maxed out supercharge upgrade. It can reach enemies outside of its range. So if you got a line of enemies that supercharge with it maxed out, it can reach 5. That chain of lightning can reach 5 enemies potentially. Every enemy can potentially receive 30 to 40 static field damage with the static field upgrade, and that's something I always look to go with first with upgrading, is that static field discharge. Single Tesla is very reliable against flying units and targets them directly. That's something that the Big Bertha does not do. Unless you have the dragon launcher upgrade. Attack rates is the fastest of all artillery. And then, I think I shouldn't have put that in there, but it ignores half of enemy's armor. That's true with all artillery. The cons is that smart targeting upgrade does not apply for the Tesla. So quite a few times somebody has told me, quite a few people have told me this, good players like MMLH and other people, JPRT, and been in the comments, they told me about this upgrade apparently does not apply to the Tesla. So I'm guessing what that means is that depending on the radius or how far out of range the enemies are, the Tesla's damage is determined based on the position as to how far away they are from the Tesla. So because like the Big Bertha does max splash damage every hit, the Tesla won't do max chain lightning damage, is pretty much what I'm trying to say. I believe I said that right. Correct me if I'm wrong, if you can get in the comment section. Attack radius is smaller in diameter than the level 3 artillery tower and the Big Bertha. That's another drawback with it, in my opinion. Maxed out special abilities cost slightly more than the Big Bertha special abilities. It's true. It might vary, I think, on Flash, but Flash is no one's playing that anymore. But I think on Steam, it's for sure their abilities cost more on Steam than it does on compared to the Big Bertha. And unlike the Big Bertha, it cannot attack enemies far outside of its range, like far outside of its range. I did say it can attack enemies outside of its range with that supercharge, that supercharge ability, but compared to the Big Bertha's dragon launch, like you saw in that Big Bertha clip where it showed the dragon launch attack the enemy way outside of its range, the Tesla can't do that. It can't do it like that. But for all those pros, folks, this tower it's all that. It's all that. It gets enemies out of the building, and it's just the ultimate decimator. It's the number one tower I feel I go with anytime I start a wave. I'm looking to do a challenge or do it as fast as possible, or do a very hard one. I'm looking to set this tower up. That's a for sure. That's definitely for sure, because its upgrades cost less compared to like the Ranger hideout. So that's why I tend to go with this tower pretty frequently. Let's see some clips, folks. Yeah, so this right here, this is a prime example. Rotten Forest heroic challenge with a hero using Allura. All I had to do was just use two Teslas, and look at that. It's attacking flying enemies, it's attacking the tainted treants, and it's doing massive damage to them. It's just the ultimate decimator, folks. It really is. The Big Bertha 2 itself, but definitely that. And then here was an epic showcase of me playing with Thor. Obviously, you see Tesla's down. I have Teslas everywhere. This is just an epic showcase showing me fighting against Myconid with Thor. So obviously with the Tesla, you see it's the ultimate decimate. It's getting rid of, no enemy is safe. I don't even have to rain of fire. I don't even have to yak attack, folks. I can just get the enemies out of the photo with Teslas only. Just looks epic. Typically, if I used any other tower, I probably would have to rain of fire, but the Tesla's it's just that powerful. Look at that. It's just beautiful. As if you guys don't even know it. You guys know already. Muy bien, folks. That is epic. That is so epic. Yep. And then here is a clip showing my top 3 towers in action. This was back in the day when I did my very first video. My very first video, look at the 3 towers I'm using. This was Dark Tower Heroic Challenge without a hero. 3 towers is all it took. And look at, they're all in the same order I ranked them. Tesla, Sorcerer, and a Ranger, folks. It made the gameplay so easy. That's how I kicked it off, and that is why they are my top 3 towers to go with, folks. It made it epic. That was muy bien. Well, there it is, folks. That's the discussion for the top, for all of the advanced towers in Kingdom Rush. Just want to make a little video to just to have that discussion. If you guys have any comments about them, feel free to jump in the comment section. If you feel there's some more cons or pros that I could have added, feel free to chit chat with me and discuss it. But thank you for watching. Ricky, aka the War Champion. Farewell.